So Empathic Awareness is Wednesday?
Yes.
Which is, what's the date on that?
14th, tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay. Not breaking everything. Hi guys. How are you? Hoping everyone's well. If you could let Paul know, if you could see me and hear me okay, that would be great. I'm not loving this. Is it this? It's either this or it's my hair. Like, there's always something going bonkers.
Wait, yeah, the pillows.
It's the thought that counts.
All right, yeah, we got seeing and hearing, which is good.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, yeah, they're all coming in now. Yes, thank you.
Very good. If you guys could give this video a thumbs up, it would be greatly appreciated. We are going to give a second here for a few people to tune in before I get started. All right, so while we wait, I do want to invite you guys to check out tomorrow is Empathic Awareness class. If you cannot attend, it's available already as a video download. You go to Ivy Rivera, empathiceducator.com. Paul, you could put that in the link, please.
I will.
All right. So tomorrow is Empathic Awareness, 7 p.m. Eastern. That is going to train you in what empathic ability really is, not just from a medical and scientific perspective or just a spiritual perspective, but from reality in dealing with the energy of it. And we're going to talk about how it leads to disorders like depression, ADHD, anxiety disorders, irritable bowel, you name it. It can cause quite a few problems. And then we're going to look at what level you're on between the 4 levels. And we're going to talk about what to do with it, how to block, how to release, all kinds of things. We also have Intuitive Tarot class beginning on the 20th. That is an 8-week course. I would highly recommend it. You have lifelong work opportunities through the Ivy League Psychic Academy. If you get certified here in tarot, Paul Casey Healing Arts is teaching that. It also trains you in the intuitive method. So for those of you who don't want to get stuck using a tool like most people do with tarot, they never evolve into mediumship. If you're the kind of person who really wants to be able to evolve into spirit communication, you will want to take this course because it opens you up to all of that, not just the tradition of the cards. Psychic Mediumship Development course started last week. You could still jump in for that. Upcoming free mini classes, Narcs and the Intuitives. Why are narcissists and sociopaths drawn to intuitives? Sunday, 10/18 at 9 p.m. Eastern. And depression. What your therapist won't tell you. Where is it coming from and what can we do about it? That's going to be Thursday, October 29th at 8 p.m. We have a few people tuned in.
We do. I noticed we have a new member, Teresa, tuned in.
A new member.
Yes,
Thank you, Teresa. Welcome. That's exciting.
Very much.
Okay, well, before I do my opening and we get into the curriculum, do you want to explain to people donations, memberships, things like this?
Yes, so we hit the marking post, or whatever you would call it, to be monetized on YouTube. So not only do we accept donations if you're willing at ivyriverapsychicmedium.com down at the bottom of the page, but you can do it right here in the chat. There's a little $sign next to the emoji guy. You can do it right in there, and it'll shout you out there, and we'll say, yeah, well, woo. We also have memberships now, and those, if you hit the join button, there are 3 tiers, and those will all be described there. They carry different perks. It's been a long day. Different perks, starting with behind the scenes videos, posts, pictures. There's exclusive video content. There is extra class content. There would be heads up on upcoming classes, things like that. And also at the higher levels, you get one monthly message directly from Ivy, as Spirit tells her to give you. She'll hit you up that way. And also monthly horoscopes. So again, that's in the join section. Check that out if that tickles your fancy. You also get cool badges like Carrie, Jill, and Vanessa and Teresa have tonight. So check it out.
And if you guys wanted to check out your horoscopes, they did just go up this afternoon. All right. So thank you, Polly. All right. So I am going to go ahead, do my intro here, and then we're going to get into the curriculum. I do want to encourage you guys to post your questions or comments, and if they fit in with what we're talking about, Paul will be giving those over to me at that time. If they are not fitting in with where we are in the curriculum, they'll be saved till the end, but feel free by all means to post, okay? All right. So welcome everyone. I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium, a Taino Airwalk, and I am an empathic educator. I started empathic education about 8 years ago and started trying to push it into the school systems, but I was hitting one brick wall after another until things like yoga and meditation and mindfulness came into the systems. And we are now in universities and some different school systems. We also have a separate webpage for that. So if you go to ivyriveraempathiceducator.com, you can see all types of empathic trainings that can help you to deal with things like your anxiety, the number one side effect from having empathic ability and intuitive intelligence. So today's free mini class is called Anxiety, What Your Therapist Won't Be Telling You. Now, I want to clear this up straight out of the gate. Why am I saying that your therapist won't be telling you this? Not necessarily because they're uneducated, although I will say the majority of them do not understand this. But sometimes they would like to speak on these things and they just don't have the liberty to do that. They need to stay within a clinical guideline. And so I have a lot of doctors and therapists that come to me and say, I wish I could say what you're free to say, but I can't do that for professional reasons. So while that's unfortunate, the word does need to get out. And I have been working on this again for approximately 8 years, more than that really, including with my own experiences with anxiety. Okay. So I never teach on anything that I haven't personally experienced or helped people with. Now, what I want to talk about today, two different things. Where is your anxiety coming from? And how can you make it useful somehow? Right. So let's break down this first category. Where is it coming from? What will your therapist likely not tell you about it? Well, the first two that I'm going to get into may be something that you have actually heard. And this has to do with trauma response, and it has to do with other people taking advantage of your energy. So let's look at this because they're very closely connected. So number one, am I trauma responding to a situation, or am I using my gut instinct? One of the things that can happen with an anxiety attack, or if you have an anxiety disorder, is that you are constantly battling your head, the left side of your brain, your logical thinking, with the right side of your brain, your intuitive self, which leads your gut instinct. You're always saying, well, because I went through this difficult time in the past, or someone hurt me in the past, how do I know if I am coming from a place of trauma, just remembering and trying to protect myself, or if I'm authentically coming from my intuition and I am in some kind of danger? Well, we have another free mini class up here that you can check out on the playlist called Emotion versus Intuition. We have another one called The Still Small Voice. Both of these will help you to understand where that information is coming from. But I do want to say this. We need to spend more time thinking on this, because when we go to therapy, we are typically looking at triggers that are often based on things that have happened, we are escaping all of these other triggers that we have that are based on physical reactions and cues to danger that we are receiving psychically. We are receiving mediumistically. We're receiving because we're empaths. All of these triggers are going to be invisible in the therapy setting, and so disregarded, right? So you need to start evaluating whether it's actually trauma from the past that's triggering your anxiety when you feel you're in danger, or if it could be an unseen force. I also want to say that one of the things you can help yourself to do with anxiety after this class is to always remind yourself that just because you're feeling anxious, you're having an anxiety attack, it does not necessarily mean that you're in danger at that moment. That can help a lot. Keep it in mind as you look for the trigger. Okay. Number 2, vampires, narcissists, sociopaths, or just needy people can trigger your anxiety a lot more than what you realize. Now, maybe you're in therapy and you're looking at the people around you that upset you or have done damage to you, have abused you or neglected you in the past. And that's pretty obvious, right? Or you have a boss who's causing you tremendous stress. It's pretty obvious stuff. What about all the more subtle energies that come off of people who are bringing in a toxic or menacing type of energy, depleting you, whether they are doing it intentionally or they are doing it unintentionally? And how can you tell if that is going on? Well, let's break these down by categories. We do have energy vampires around us. And this can be very cleverly masked. These could be people that are charming and engaging. We have a lot of so-called light workers. They've been popping out of the woodwork the last 5 years. I've seen more and more of them. They're the healers, and they put their hands on you, and all of a sudden you're sick. You're exhausted. You're drained. Okay, there are a lot, it's almost like covert narcissism. These are people who are draining your energy, but they are masked cleverly as being normal, mainstream, even helpful. We have narcissists, we have sociopaths. I do want to say for any of you that are empathic, the Empathic Awareness training is on Wednesday. Narcissists and sociopaths are drawn to empaths more than any other group of people. We know this from research. So this could be a hidden force affecting you. And what about the things that we don't want to talk about? How about your kids? How about your spouse? How about your family members that you're supposed to feel good around or want to be around? Well, they could also be significantly draining you and causing all kinds of anxiety attacks. I think that one of the things that we need to be honest about is taking the time to say, okay, I'm having anxiety. I need to look back and find my triggers and understand that it's not going to match the conventional triggers. It may not make any logical sense. You are going to have to look back at everyone that you were around. I would keep a journal, and it's okay if it's a family member or your child to say that, yes, I was feeling good until I was around that person, and now I'm not. We also have to be realistic that when we're talking about clinical triggers and then we're talking about intuitive triggers, these are completely different things. We have time travel available to us at all times, and intuitively you could be triggered in advance before you're even around people who are going to drain your energy or activate you. So, the therapist may say to you, well, who were you around? Well, what were you doing? Well, it could be a family event that's coming up in 3 days and you're a train wreck, or something that hasn't even happened yet. You don't even know you're going to this location. You don't even know that this person is going to call you. You don't even know it's happening, but psychically you are picking up on it in advance. Well, that's not going to make a lot of sense if we're looking at things from clinical, logical angles. All right, so pay attention to time backward and forward. Number 3, the winds of change. Here's another activator for your anxiety. The winds of change. Well, it is typically disregarded that what you can't see coming doesn't exist. And that is so unfortunate. We are all psychic. If you are alive, surviving on planet Earth, it's because you're psychic. It's because you are tapping into your gut instincts all the time. I don't believe in skeptics. There's no such thing. They'd be dead and gone by now, okay? It's not an option. So we are here because we're psychic. We are still hanging on because when our intuition kicks in, we know to shift lanes in traffic, or we know to not go somewhere, or we know to run, right? We know to avoid certain people and situations, things like this. So one of the major activators is change coming into your life. Humans do not care for change. We don't handle it really well, even if we really, really need it, or even if we think we maybe want it in some way. When change is approaching, we start to feel that our circumstances are on shaky ground. We're no longer on solid footing in our lives, and we get very nervous about it. So psychically, you don't know what's coming, but you do feel it physically. So we have mental distress, we'll have emotional meltdowns, we could start having these trauma responses, all of this anxiety, and you will physically tense up and start to react to what your body is energetically reading as a threat. But it isn't necessarily a threat. Now, when I'm talking about the winds of change in your circumstances, we could be talking about anything. Maybe you're about to win the lottery. Who knows? You're still going to have a negative physical reaction to that psychically. We could be talking about maybe there is a car accident that's about to come up. Well, days or weeks ahead of time, you could be having anxiety over that situation and not understand why. Maybe your boyfriend is about to propose. Well, you're reading it as such a toxic negative thing, even if you wanted that you're just one anxiety attack after another. Whenever there's change coming, you will read it in an overwhelming, energetic way. Doesn't mean it's bad. I did want to talk a little bit about another free mini class we had put up called Empaths and the Pandemic. Because right now, all people are super empathic and all people are having anxiety and emotional meltdowns and things like this, overabsorption of energy, because we are dealing with a pandemic, we are dealing with racial injustice, we are dealing with if you're here in America, a huge election process. There's a lot going on. All of these things are mass activators. When you are surrounded by other people who are also activated and having constant anxiety and meltdowns, you are going to naturally absorb that. I don't care if you think of yourself as an empath or not. Okay, we all have it to some degree. So that may be another free mini class that you want to check out. Don't have time to get into it today. But the winds of change, we are right now in the winds of change. Okay, no doubt about it. We don't need to read everything as negative. It may not be. Okay, I want to go to number 4, spiritual, energetic, immeasurable influences. When I go into the school systems and the academies and things like this, I talk to people about immeasurable influences. What is this? This is anything from paranormal activity to you having mediumistic abilities, to you receiving a download, to you having a Kundalini or an awakening, picking up energy from atmospheres and objects. Let's break these down. You could be having a lot of issues with your anxiety, feeling like even though you did everything the therapist and the doctors told you to do, it isn't working. Even though you took all of your meds, it isn't working. What could be going on? How about this other component that the scientific and medical community will not accept? That is immeasurable influences. So you could have paranormal activity going on. That's a given. It may not even be you. Maybe it's someone else in your house or someone you work with. Paranormal activity is like gum on the bottom of your shoe. If someone has an attachment or a possession and you're around them all the time, this is going to become an issue for you. We have a free mini class called How to Clear Your Space, or Clearing Your Space. We have another 2-hour training called Hauntings, Clearings, and Detachments. It is not uncommon to see that you're having issues with anxiety and then you're also having like nightmares or paranormal activity in your house where the lights are flickering, or you feel like something touched you, you're hearing your voice called. These things can go hand in hand. It could be this. Okay, what about being mediumistic? Again, I don't believe in skeptics. There's no such thing, because I don't care whether you believe in it or not. The spirit world does not care whether you believe in them or not. Okay, they would prefer that you do, so that we can all get our work done and do some healing around here. But if you don't, that's not going to stop them from coming in and communicating with you. The number one physical side effect to a spirit coming in to communicate with you, or just even accidentally standing too close to you, is an anxiety attack. So the majority, I would say 90% of my students that come in here are with anxiety disorders, okay? Because spirit is constantly coming in to pass messages. Keep it in mind. Oh, we have a free mini class on this too that could help you if you're not sure what category you fit in. It's called Are You a Psychic, a Medium, or an Empath? So go to the playlist for that one. Another, I mentioned downloads. Okay, what does that mean? We have a free mini class up here also called Receiving the Download. How does that physically affect you? Well, when you have a download put into you, which is essentially instruction from the universe, your angels maybe put it in, it depends. But when you receive it, you will look sometimes up to like 3 or 4 months like you're having a manic episode. And it would really be unfortunate, I can't prescribe or diagnose, but it would be unfortunate if you start treating yourself as having manic depression when you're actually just processing a download. Now, this is like restless leg syndrome. This is not eating the way that you used to. This is not requiring as much sleep as you used to, but really feeling very, very productive. And it's easily misdiagnosed. Okay, so keep that in mind. You may have just received a download, which is actually an honor because you're leveling up. It's something that your soul really wanted to do, you know. Now, hand in hand with this a little bit, okay, those of you that are woke, those of you that are newly woke, or those of you that are kind of watching this and like, I think I might be going through a bit of an awakening, I'm really not sure. You would typically have something called Kundalini. I don't have time to get into it today. Google it or check out my other classes. Kundalini is essentially a detoxing process. So when the universe is ready to use you more, when you are awakening or evolving, we have to get rid of all the junk that's in the way. Now, that could be people in your life. That could be bad habits. Maybe you no longer feel like smoking a cigarette. Wouldn't that be nice? It happens. Maybe you're not supposed to be drinking anymore. Now you have a glass of wine and you're blacking out. You don't understand. But with Kundalini, it can also be some pretty common physical reactions that could look like a manic episode or anxiety. And they are typically drainage of the sinuses, but you don't have other symptoms. You're not contagious. Nobody else is sick. Flu-like symptoms. It can be really affecting the way that you live your life, but usually only for a few months. Again, sort of like a download. And it would be a shame to overreact to that detoxing process. Okay, so part of Kundalini and the awakening, they go hand in hand, is that at every level, we're seeing the same thing over and over and over again. So it's not something that just disappears because you go through it once. So analyze how you've been feeling, and also if no one else around you is having any of those symptoms, it's very possible that you're fluctuating right now, letting go of the old to bring in the new healing energy. Okay. Another immeasurable influence that causes anxiety, picking up on the energy from atmospheres and objects around you. Some of you may notice that when you are driving in the car, you spontaneously have random anxiety attacks. or you feel really drawn to look at something on the side of the road, or a building kind of upsets you. You may also notice that you used to love antiquing or going to a yard sale or Walmart, and then all of a sudden you're like dying. You can't do this stuff anymore. What is upsetting you? Atmospheres and objects hold energy, period. It's immeasurable. That's fine. That's granted. But we have to examine how these things are real. It's like a residual energy. And as you become more intuitive, you will be triggered. If something traumatic happened on the side of the road, somebody died, there was a terrible car accident, it leaves a trace of itself, and you will be activated with an anxiety attack. Same thing for atmospheres. A lot of people love going into these, paranormal places. But for you, that could be, it's dangerous for everybody, let's be honest. But for you, you might not even be able to look at it without feeling like you're drained. You could feel like you're going to pass out. You're very dizzy, loss of vision. Your ears start to ring. A lot of problems like this are connected to the horrible things that happened there, or the energy from any spirits that might still be there. Now, objects also carry energy. We're going to break this down Wednesday at Empathic Awareness training. Hope to see you there. But an object will carry energy. So if you were the kind of kid in school who hated being placed next to certain people, or if the teacher gave you a book and was like, this is your textbook for the year, and you were like, whoa, I can't touch that, or I can't use someone else's pencil, or if you have to, when you go shopping, dig 3 rows back to find a thing of toilet paper, okay, that has the right energy. This is all a sign that you're breathing energy from objects, okay? It could look like OCD. I'm not here to prescribe or diagnose. It is knowing that when you touch an object, you take in the energy from that object. Well, this is going to cause a lot of anxiety, okay? Especially in a situation like school. So think of your kids and your students. This is why we bring empathic awareness into the school system. Think of how they're forced. Think of how you're forced at work, especially, okay? Start measuring these things out for yourself. Let's move on to the last one here on the question of where is it coming from? Okay, and then we're going to move on to what can you do about it. Number 5. This is a little unfortunate, but I am a firm believer in moving forward and just plowing through it, okay? The more you heal yourself, the more intuition increases. Intuition cannot be reversed. There is no such thing. We can block it and we can try to tune it out, but it will eventually turn into disorders. Most commonly, depression, ADHD, and anxiety disorders. So you have to understand that as you're going through the healing process, whether it's taking medications, you're going to the psychiatrist, you're going to the therapist, you're now, you have a good healthy exercise routine, whatever it is, you're doing self-help books, you're trying not to do like emotional eating anymore, whatever it is. As you go through that healing process, you're going to get slammed with a higher level of intuition because you detoxed, kind of like the Kundalini, okay? You detoxed. Well, that's a great thing, but now what to do with all this new stuff that's coming in? So you may feel like new level, new devil. I'm not getting anywhere. That's okay to feel that way, but it's also really important that you're not looking at the same old. Don't look at what you were just doing or what you were healing. Look at other possibilities and look at your intuitive intelligence as a brand new, amazing thing that you can use for other levels of healing for yourself and others. Okay. The point of having it is to eventually become an active member of the universe and heal others as well. So look at it as though it's your initiation into that part of the universe. Okay. And that work. So one of the common things to see is that you don't feel better. You actually feel worse now that you're going to therapy, you're taking your meds, you're doing whatever. You either feel numbed out and like you can't process any of this because you're not experiencing it authentically anymore. You may also feel that now that I'm healing, I'm feeling worse because of, let's look at a couple key areas that are not probably going to come up in your therapy. You become telepathic, especially at the third and fourth levels of empathic ability. Telepathy is the ability to hear other people's thoughts. Now, if you were a child who was traumatized in any way, abused, neglected, maybe if you've been living in like a marginalized, society, maybe you're a minority, there's any kind of ancestral healing that needs to go on, you may have had this from the time you were a child. And you may not even realize that you have it. Some of the thoughts that you have might not be your own. If you are telepathic, you are, for the sake of protecting your own self, picking up on other people's thoughts around you. Well, for some people, that's kind of a maddening feeling. And if that's something new to you, you haven't had this your whole life, you're going to wonder what the heck is going on, and it is going to cause you some anxiety, I'm sure. Part of the reason it can upset you is because those that are around you that have ill intentions toward you, you'll be able to hear that now. That can create guilt. You can start to wonder if you're a bad person, being paranoid and thinking all these negative things about people. These are things that you probably didn't see before. You start to see people and their true colors because you're becoming more telepathic. All right. You may also have past life triggers. The more healing you're doing, the more detoxing and block removal that's going on, the more you're going to tap into your past lives. Now, past lives are typically not going to come up in this life unless it requires healing, or there's unfinished business. Something traumatic happened and you were cut short in some way. So when we are to a place where we've healed enough in this life, we need to start working on our unfinished business. It's like a to-do list that you came to Earth to also finish. You got to start working on that. Okay. We have a class called Meet Your Guides. And in Meet Your Guides class, you meet your Akashic Record guide who handles your past life information and helps you with that process. You may want to check that out. But I would pay attention to flashbacks, to strange dreams where you're not sure if you're yourself, okay, but you're dealing with a lot of stuff. Well, part of these past life triggers and flashbacks is a lot of almost like PTSD-like symptoms. And if you have something like hyperacusis, if I'm saying that right, it is sounds and smells, and sometimes even seeing something can trigger you into anxiety attacks, and you don't really understand why anymore, and you're going to therapy and we can't figure out why. What the heck is going on with you? It could be past life stuff coming up to the surface and you're ready to work through it. Odor elicited distress, things like this. Okay, another one is your childhood abilities in intuitive intelligence that you were taught to block are going to return. So if you were told by your parents there's no such thing as monsters, you're going to get in trouble if you keep saying that, or you were told never to talk about your imaginary friend at school, you were taught to basically think of all of these things as like devil worship by the church, or that it's all bad and you're going to get put into like the straitjacket for it. This is something that the majority of us have gone through. And right at the time in our lives when we're supposed to be embracing it the most, we've been trained by society to block it, which leads to some of the disorders I spoke about: depression, anxiety, ADHD, things like this. What happens when you're going through a healing process for yourself is that you remove certain toxic energy and blocks that were there deliberately because you wanted to go to therapy, you wanted to heal, you wanted to evolve. But now all of your intuitive intelligence is back. So seeing spirits literally with your eyes, hearing spirits with your ears, heightened sense of mediumistic abilities. Therefore, the anxiety attacks actually increase because now spirits are coming in to communicate with you. It can all be activated. Okay, the psychic paranoia, all of that. Any questions or comments coming in here?
No, I think that everyone who is here tonight has the notebook ready and is just digging in.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Or I'm off the rails? Okay.
Well, no, early on, Rachel had said that she's been having anxiety all day for no reason, so she's really looking forward to tonight to figure it out,
Okay, very good. Well, I'm going to move on to how to make this useful. Okay, how to make this useful for yourself. And I do see some questions coming in. So Paul's going to start gathering those up. We're going to get to those in just a minute. Well, I would recommend the number one thing is to understand that everything that we suffer through in life is supposed to be used as a lesson and to strengthen us. So there's a bigger purpose to it. We are ultimately meant to take it and to give it out to others, to become part of a larger healing community. So keep that in mind. You're basically needing to move from a victimhood mentality into a healer, light worker mentality. And that goes for everybody, whether you've been thrown through the prison system, you've fallen into drug addiction for many years because you were trying to escape the pain or your intuitive intelligence, you were abused or neglected, you met up with a narcissist and it was a horrible experience. Whatever has happened to you, it was supposed to be used for something more. And anything that causes you anxiety is the same way. We need to figure out where it's coming from, and we need to figure out what we're supposed to do with that particular trigger. Number two, you need to ask what is happening and what the lesson really is in a deeper way than what you've been told to do in therapy or with your doctors. There is a very shallow level there. And I remember going in and talking to a therapist after being misdiagnosed a million times. From the age of 5, they had misdiagnosed me over and over and over and over again. And then they would just send me back. The school would send me back, tell my mother to send me back in. And they would always come back. And the doctors and the therapists would say, you know what, we're sorry. We apologize. It was a misdiagnosis. Let's switch up the meds that weren't working. It's something else. It's got to be something else. They never figured out what was wrong with me because I was never diagnosed with intuition. I was never diagnosed as a medium. I was never diagnosed as a psychic. But I remember going in and talking to one therapist and saying, I had these premonitions about going into this one building. I used to clean houses. And a lot of the places I would clean were like churches and things like this. And I remember telling my one therapist about it, and she said basically to me that I was crazy in a nutshell, and that I must have forgotten that I was there in that building back when I was a kid or something like that. And I was like out of town. It didn't make any sense when it happened. And I said, you know what? Now I'm done. I'm going to go find for my own self what is going on. I did not know that I was that psychic. I didn't know how many deja vus I was having, how many times I time traveled and I would go to places or meet people or do certain work, and it wouldn't happen for many years. And to be labeled as essentially being incorrect for getting her out of my mind was such an offense to me that I walked away from it and I started dealing with it on my own. And that is not necessarily what I'm saying to you is walk away from your therapy. I am saying dig deeper. And if you feel like you're not getting answers to the anxiety that you're feeling, or to the visions that you're having, or to whatever it is that you're going through with your changes, I think you need to ask inward, what is happening with me, and sit with it. I would recommend 10 to 15 minute intervals. Don't do it for too long. There's no need, but sit with it and allow your own higher mind to tell you what might be going on. See if it doesn't fit in one of these categories. I would also say that you need to include your guides, your angels, your ancestors, God. The healing network that you came to Earth with goes way beyond your therapist and your doctor if they're not getting you the help that you need. You were given a set of 5 guides when you came to Earth. 2 angels, you have all your ancestors, you have God, and you have your higher mind that you can always count on. Go in and ask them to show you if there might be something more to the picture. Number 3, I think you need to analyze your life contract more. This kind of ties in with what we were saying earlier a little bit. I think that when we look at the current changes in the world and how the awakening is going on a mass level, And how many of us feel that we're being drawn into the healing arts, or that we're actually a light worker, that we're super intuitive, and now we want to start doing something with it? I think you need to look at your life contract, meaning the work that you signed on to before you came to Earth. You could either book a life contract reading with me, or you can sit with your work and money guide, and you can ask what's written in there. I think that if you authentically find your calling, you are going to be able to see how your anxiety is playing into that. So it could be something that you're supposed to be using. That could end up being a way for you to heal a certain ministry or your client base, or in your new line of work. You're supposed to be using this and folding it into your bigger life purpose. And number 4, last but not least, and then I'm going to get to questions. Okay, so if you guys have questions or comments, post them now. Number 4, I would highly recommend to everyone that you check out the class up on my website called Relationships, Boundaries, and Cord Cutting. So we often think that we have dealt with traumas, but we also have to be honest that sometimes in reliving things, whether it be like, in your therapy, or if you are just taking meds and things like this, that there's more there than meets the eye. Sometimes these things are not as easily dealt with as we might like to believe. Talking about it, stirring it up, plowing on past it, behavioral modification, all kinds of this is not always enough. It could be that you have not resolved these issues. Pay attention to where you still have trauma, where you are still being triggered and your anxiety is activated. Pay attention to your dreams and the issues that come up there, and pay attention to any time you try to be mindful, whether you just want to sit still and do a meditation, or you're in motion meditation, you're working out, you're exercising, you're cleaning your house, you're driving in the car. What thoughts keep popping up repeatedly in your head? These issues, these instances, or these people could be the source of your anxiety. And what you may need to do is take that class and learn how to cut cords. So one of the things we do in that class is a forgiveness exercise. Before we cut the cords, we forgive it, we forgive ourselves, and we allow for that thing to also be released. Well, this is your opportunity to take your power back. Now, people use this class mostly for relationship cord cutting, but I've had people who have used it for sugar and lost like 15 pounds within a matter of weeks. I've seen people use it for addiction, even like porn addiction. It could literally be anything that is limiting you from your growth, that you have tried to suppress, but you need to get rid of. So we need to forgive and release. A lot of people suffer a ton with anxiety, and they feel that they've gone through all the necessary exercises, but real forgiveness is letting go of something or somebody and signing on to a new contract. And that's something that we do in that class. When you sign off on that old contract, whatever agreement it is with you had with this person or this situation, and you sign on to a brand new contract and you say, I'm going to use it, I'm going to take it with me, I'm going to help other people, you put yourself in a brand new position. And what you do during that time is you say to the universe energetically, I am done with this thing, I am ready to go. And the universe can start to flow and work with you. So for those of you who have a lot of anxiety and you notice that your prosperity is always drying up, or you're in a cyclical pattern in your life where you can't sort of evolve and go anywhere with your prosperity, it could be forgiveness at the roots. It could be these cords at the roots. We have to energetically cut and let things loose in order for the universe to give us what we are deserving of having. And you can really, after knowing all of this, you can really look at anxiety when it does come up. And for me, it's constant because I'm a medium and I'm an empath level 4 and I'm a psychic. I mean, so you name it, I've got it. It's always coming up. But I can at least look at my anxiety and say, Where did it come from? Or who did it come from? What does it mean? What am I supposed to do with it? And it's like, it doesn't even faze me anymore. Okay. So you have to learn how to use it. And, you know, I think that there are a lot of therapists out there that are really, really greatly intentioned. And I honor them for that, because that is a huge part of this healing process. You should not skip over that part of this process, but we've got to evolve. Okay. This is also the finishing touch. This is the icing on the cake. This is the next level up. You've got to look at these things as well. Okay. Do we have questions or comments?
Both.
Great.
Yeah. Andrea says that she agrees with what you're saying about the kid. You know, as a kid telling the truth, she said, I was always labeled as a liar. So even as an adult, I get anxiety telling the truth. So thank you for touching on this.
Very good.
Yeah. And then we have a question from Teresa.
Okay.
She asks, can prescribed anxiety meds cause empathic abilities to be blocked?
Yes. Anxiety meds, depressive, but they can cause everything to be blocked. That's what they do. So, you know, again, I'm not here to prescribe or diagnose, but you basically get numbed out. It's like the zombie factor. You know, you're just sort of going through the motions. And what that means is that you can't process this stuff. Now, sometimes people get prescribed certain medications and they're told, well, it will help you to process what you're going through. Okay, if we're processing what you're going through, but what if we're not? What if we're not processing anything? Because all of this has been dismissed. All of this is being ignored. Then what are you doing? You're just blocking. Yeah. And again, we cannot reverse anything. So it's just going to be there when and if you come off. Waiting. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. We have one from the Silly Rabbit.
Okay.
Who asks, or says, really, I want to embrace my, but it's hard at times when I hear that the more I heal, the more it will open the door to another list of things to tackle. Any advice?
Yes. So I have a free mini class called Your Fear of Leveling Up. And the one that goes hand in hand with that is called Fighting the Dark. And it is a decision that you have to make in your life. Am I going to have a growth mindset and am I going to evolve in my life, or am I going to stay stagnant? It's not just about intuition. Understanding your intuition more and the levels up and the difficulties that are involved in that are highly evolved and beneficial, especially in terms of prosperity, compared to the other processes in life where we have to go through those hardships and level up anyways. So it's like you've got all your ordinary mainstream difficulties in life that are going to happen anyways. There's no way to sit completely still. And then you have this spiritual evolution. And the benefits here with this are so much greater. I would even say that the whole purpose of going through all of these mainstream things in life is to eventually lead us to that point, you know, where we're evolving. So I think that something important to do is to not sort of shove it, you know, like ram it down your own throat. Like so many people are going after one spiritual activity after another. And while this may not be good for my business, maybe I shouldn't admit this, but instead of going after like one thing and then another thing, it's like, I'm going to learn tarot and then I'm going to learn Reiki and then I'm going to do crystals and then I'm going to learn this and then I'm going to learn that. And, you know, singing bowls and mushrooms and it's like on and on and on, like more and more and more. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm saying that's what a lot of people are doing. Okay. That's what a lot of people are doing, especially right now. It shouldn't be that hard. Like, it's so natural. It will actually stalk you. You know, it will come to you. Enlightenment is a natural process and you don't have to go after it. And if you feel like it's becoming too much for you, it's a sign that you haven't fully evolved in what you've already gained. You haven't learned what it's all about. You're not educated enough on it and you don't understand how to maintain it and how to properly use it. And so you need to get back to the basics. I would recommend the Psychic Mediumship course. Sounds like it's time for sure to learn the language. of empathic, psychic, and mediumistic abilities. Everybody ends up there eventually anyways, because without that, you've got gaps that you'll never figure out. I would learn the basics. And then the course also trains you how to manage your abilities. So I'm not in that class opening up Pandora's box for you until you've learned to handle what you already have. It's about well-being and self-care, and then giving out to others. So that's a good place to start. Yeah. But sometimes people do take on too much, and it could be time to slow down. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Sure.
Jill asks,
okay,
when you can recognize an anxiety attack is related to some type of psychic activity, empath, sports, telepathy, what's the best way to ground ourselves?
Did she say sports?
She said sports. Yeah.
Sports?
Because she's watching the Bills and is very...
Oh, okay. So when you realize that you're having an anxiety attack because of a trigger like sports, psychic ability, and what was the other thing?
Empath, telepathy.
Empath or telepathy. What was the question then? What's
the best way to ground ourselves?
Well, we talk about that in the Empathic Awareness training. So I actually spend...
She meant spirits.
Oh, spirits, not sports. It can happen with sports. I actually heard that and I was like, clever. What an observation. Because honestly, all of that energy from the sports and all of that like testosterone, that'll send anyone. I think there are a lot of people that hate sports because of that. Even if you're like an extroverted, introverted empath, you may hate it, that whole atmosphere. So, okay, I get it. So she wants to know how to get rooted and grounded. Well, in the Empathic Awareness course that we have coming up on Wednesday, or again, it's up on the website, Ivy Rivera, empathiceducator.com. I actually take like a whole portion of that class is training you in how to do that. So I would recommend taking that. We need to take the time to go through not only how to get rooted and grounded, but also what tools can you use to make it easier if you're in a rush. And we talk about cleansing exercises, because one of the big mistakes that people make is talking about getting rooted and grounded, but they don't cleanse. So if you're like, I don't want to say dirty energy, but if you have built up energy and you're trying to get rooted and grounded and you've still got that in there, it's going to cause other problems for you. And the rooting and grounding either may not work or it may not last. You're going to wonder what the heck you did wrong. So it's not as simple as people have made it out to be. Let's get rooted and grounded. We actually have to go through the whole process. And then you need to maintain it, and you need to effectively maintain it. And the only way to effectively maintain is to understand what sets you off so that you can prepare ahead of time. So we talk about all of that in the course. That's a great question.
It is. Rachel says that I've been pulling out my eyelashes since I was 6, and now I started pulling out my hair. I'm taking a psychic class. Could pulling my hair possibly be anxiety related to an awakening or change?
Yeah, it could, because now that you're taking the psychic mediumship course here, essentially what you said to the universe is, I'm here to be of service. I'm willing to help and heal others. And you can't do that until you've done the healing. And so we're going to talk in week 3 about something called the shift. The shift is a 3-part transition that you're going to be going through, that everybody at some point goes through. But it's going to be a process where you have to let go of what no longer serves you. So in order for you to heal and be able to heal others, you're going to have to figure out what is causing that level of anxiety for you. And we're going to have to go through the process of identifying it, making peace with it, and converting it like alchemy into something negative to be used for something positive. So it's not at all uncommon to hear something like that. Things are going to come to the surface. That's why we do the shift in week 3 of the class.
This kind of touches on that last spot there, I feel. Crystal says that, she's asking, when we figure out a trigger for anxiety, how do we figure out what to do with it? And how do we learn the lesson we're supposed to learn from it?
Well, it's like everything I suggested. It's going to require more education. It's going to require more. That's why I do these. It's not that simple. It's figuring out also what it means to you, because what it means to you might be totally different than what it means to someone else. So it's individualized to your journey. It's individualized to your life contract. But again, you need to look at what your life purpose is here. You need to ultimately, if we all know why we came to Earth, if we are all staying in our lane and we're not wasting our time and energy doing other kinds of work just to get a paycheck, or we're coming from a place of ego and control, fear, when we are authentic about why we're here, we can see why every anxiety trigger and what every lesson really means in terms of healing ourselves and then being able to use it to heal the world around us. So that's just analysis. That's taking the time. I want to say this. There is so much out there right now that is based on quick enlightenment, right? And I've been posting a lot these past couple of weeks about how, the majority of people who are getting into the enlightenment movement, they want to evolve, right? Like I've had 12 different times people come in for my psychic mediumship course and steal it and go open psychic academies and start reteaching it. Okay. I got to have lawyers on this now. It's ridiculous. What does that say about our mentality at this stage in the awakening? It says that we are looking for a quick fix, that we are still thinking in terms of what society has tainted us with, which is instant gratification, answers, solutions, quick, speed. I got to tell you, the healing process is a long, slow, calm, often painful, layered like an onion type of an experience that is never going to end. And there's no need to kind of rush or want just the outcome at the end of the journey. It's about the journey. That's where your answers are. I would also watch that class I recommended earlier, The Still Small Voice. You have to sit with it every time and ask, what is this about? Where is it coming from? Okay. Part 1 of this class. And number 2, what am I supposed to do with it? And I would say that if you're doing this for about 10 to 15 minutes every time something acts up, and you are calling in your guides to help you with that, you should be able to really have a nice full journal of understanding of what's happening. And I think that anything beyond 15 minutes, our imaginations start to kind of take off without us. So be limiting on that. I don't know if I answered that question or not. I thought I knew what I was saying. What was the question?
It was, how do we learn from it? Basically, you said, you got to do the work.
You got to do the work. Oh yeah, nobody could. I mean, you could get readings and say, what's the lesson? But then your lessons in life, your discomfort in life is going to become about you not doing the work. So it's like, there's no way to escape this. We have to become our own medium. We have to become our own healer. We have to become our own psychic, our own empath. We have to do this for ourselves. And we can't move up in the world and become a healer for anyone else until we can at least do it for ourselves. But there is no level jumping in any of that. But know that spirit is always ready and willing, and the universe is designed to help you with this. And when the meds aren't working, and the therapy isn't working, and the doctors can't figure out what's going on. Yep. Anything else?
Yes. Soraya said this is a great topic, and it's really resonating with her.
Good.
And wanted to add in that her anxiety is also triggered by spikes in the Schumann resonance, which has to do with lightning and electromagnetic frequencies.
I just want to play off of that real quick. It was funny because Spirit wanted me to talk about lightning and things like this in this class the other night, and I ended up not, this is a full curriculum, I ended up not putting all that in. However, I did talk about it, I think it was it last night's Q&A, Ask Ivy show maybe, where we were talking about the veil between the worlds right now, the spiritual world and, the earth plane, and things like autumn, fall activating paranormal activity and all of this. So the veil is very thin, things like she was mentioning with the lightning and stuff. There is no doubt about it. When you tap into those different frequencies, whether they can be measured or not, yes, you're going to have reactions. And again, it doesn't mean it's bad, but your physical body doesn't know that. It all just ends up being anxiety.
Yeah, right. It's just
like
it processes out
it's
one
just
way.
autumn.
Yeah, it's like all meat becoming bologna.
Pretty much.
Anxiety, the hot dog of emotions.
Yeah.
So the Silly Rabbit says, thank you. I agree. I'm overdue on learning the language.
Oh, good.
Jill says, awesome. Thank you. Can't wait for tomorrow's class. Rachel and Crystal both say thank you. And we have a question from Julie.
You guys are welcome. Yes. Looking forward to seeing you guys. If this class resonated with any of you, I'm telling you the next step is going to be empathic awareness training tomorrow, because even if you don't understand all of this yet, in the evolution of intuition, it's going to eventually lead there. So, was this Julie's question?
Julie, yes.
Okay, what is?
She says, I've been stuck in trauma for a year with my ex leaving suddenly. I can barely function. I've done lots of energy work, cutting cords, and therapy. What can I do to let go and move forward? Is it his pain?
Well, I don't know if you did cord cutting through my course. And sometimes when you do cord cutting, it doesn't really work and you have to do it repeatedly. So I would highly recommend that you do it properly. And if you have not already gotten the relationships, boundaries, and cord cutting class, part of what you need is an understanding of why those cords are there. So when I talk about cords, I'm not talking about cords like in a fictitious way. I am talking about due to karmic contracts or soulmate connections, we can literally have energetic cords to someone else. We have another class that goes alongside that called Karma Contracts and Past Lives. When you have these cords due to any of these, you have obsession. And it's almost like a compulsion. It's like an addiction. You cannot release the other person or let go. It's not an option. It is an energetic impossibility. So you have to go through the full process. That is the forgiveness. That is the cord cutting. That's signing off on the contract, signing on to the new. That's the relationships and cord cutting class. I think being more educated on why it has happened, the karma contracts and past lives class, could also help you in that, because what happens in a situation like this is that you also have past life influence. You feel obviously overly responsible for this person. You also feel victimized and somewhat abandoned by the whole thing. And so we have all of these emotions coming up, and we need to be coming at it from an intuitive place, a logical place, not an emotional place that isn't working for you anymore. And the only way to switch it is to get the facts, to get the education, and to understand what really went on, and to know that you can get the upper hand. But it's really hard to not feed those emotions or let them take over when you don't have the logic and the intuition compensating. Then you're just sort of spiraling out of control. So I would start there. Okay, we good? All right, awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please comment on the video. This should be posted. I think it'll probably be published around tomorrow afternoon sometime. And we thank you for your donations if you want to leave one, and also for your memberships. I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, for Empathic Awareness. And you can go to ID Rivera, empathiceducator.com to register for that. If you have to miss it, it is already available as a video download, but there will be a fresh one going up afterward. And I will see you for the next free mini class, Narcs and the Intuitives, the never-ending saga. Why are narcissists and sociopaths always latching on to us intuitive people? That is Sunday the 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget your horoscopes. Just went up this afternoon. Thank you, Polly.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Spirit.
Thank you.
Have a good night.